Hello, welcome to Chapter 9, Part 2, where we talk about the spinal cord. When you look at the spinal cord, first off, be aware that there is a spinal nerve that comes out between each vertebrae. So you have your 8 cervical, then you have 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, sacral, and your coccyx. When you look at the spinal cord in a cross section, you'll see that it has a butterfly-like gray matter surrounded by white matter in this situation. The gray matter is the nervous tissue and the white matter are the tracts that protect it. When you look at the butterfly shape, you will see that the dorsal nerve is sensory. So the sensory comes through, and here is the ganglion. If you remember, sensory nerves do not have the cell bodies as part of their bodies. They kind of stick out like little aliens. So quite often the cell bodies are found in the ganglion. So you have your dorsal sensory nerve, and then you have your ventral motor nerve. A couple of extra functions here. You don't really need to be too aware of them. Just realize that you've got dorsal sensory and ventral motor, and they are protected by meninges, which we'll talk about later. So the spinal nerves come out of in between the vertebrae. There are 31 spinal nerves. Each nerve is attached to the spinal cord by 2 roots. You have your dorsal root, which is your sensory, and your ventral, which is motor. Realize that information only goes one way. The nerves near the end of the cord travel together in the cord until they exit from the respective vertebral foramina. Mixed nerves contain both sensory and motor nerves. When you look at the branches of them, they are formed in plexes. You just have to realize there are plexes. We won't go into too much detail, but you've got your cranial plexus, your brachial plexus, then you have your lumbothoracic plexus. It's based on the vertebrae in which they exit, so I won't have you memorize it. You just have to be aware of it. There's also something called dermatomes. Dermatomes are the area of the body that's innervated by each of the nerves. Now this is becomes aware in the situation of shingles. Shingles is a version of a virus like smallpox. It will affect a certain nerve, so you will have stripes of very sensitive skins based on these dermatomes. Then when it comes to the spinal nerves are a part of reflexes. The neat thing about a reflex is that the reflex will stay right at the level at of the spinal cord to have the information processed faster. Quite often, if you hurt yourself or you burn yourself, you will pull your hand away and then you say ouch, because it takes information to go up and takes information a little longer to go up to your brain. When you look at the spinal, the reflex arc, the typical reflex arc has a receptor, then you've got your afferent sensory neuron, then you have an interneuron in the spinal cord which integrates it, then it comes out your ventral motor neuron, and it affects the effector. The example here is a finger poke. The finger gets poked. The receptor, which would be probably a Pacinian corpuscle in your finger, feels the pain, and it sends the message straight to your spinal cord, and it stays at the level of your spinal cord. Very little negration, and it comes out quickly, innervating your bicep, and your bicep contracts and you move your finger quickly. So it's very simple, very rapid, very uncomplicated. It's automatic, and it's seen as a survival mechanism. So there's the reflex arc here, and there's also the knee jerk reflex. Both of them are basically to protect you from harm. When you look at the spinal cord, you will see that there are some procedures. The lumbar puncture And that's when you're taking the cerebral spinal fluid. The cerebral spinal fluid is the fluid surrounding the brain and spinal cord, and it's there to help protect and lubricate the brain. Also, and to nourish the brain. You also have 3 meninges around the brain and spinal cord, the dura mater, the pia mater, and the arachnoid. And these will help produce the cerebral spinal fluid and are also a very tough connective tissue to protect it. Okay, when we look at clinical aspects, they're pretty, you'll look at those in more detail. A lumbar puncture is quite painful because it goes right into the spinal cord, but this way you don't have some of the other complications of taking an anesthetist, so you've got your meninges and you've got your subarachnoid space, which is the space where the fluid is. I just want you to be aware of the conditions or the diseases with the spinal cord: multiple sclerosis, which is the lack of myelination; atrophic lateral sclerosis; and poliomyelitis, which is the polio virus. ALS is the big ice bucket challenge. Just to be aware of it, quite often you will have herpes zosters is the type of herpes that is along the spinal cord. Again, I just want you to be aware of the diseases. Now, when you break down the spinal cord, the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, is divided into 2 different groups: the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. When you think sympathetic, you think of something that wants to help you. So the sympathetic nervous system is seen as the fight or flight. This is what gets the body revved up. So if you think of what's happening when the body is all excited, you have your eyes are dilating, you are not you get dry mouth because you're not producing any saliva. The rate of your inhalations and your respiratory rate increases, your heart beats, your liver secretes glucagon to get that energy stored into, or get out energy into your blood. Your digestive system is shut down, and your digestive system shuts down to shunt the blood to other parts of your body. So this is seen as the fight or flight. When you look at the parasympathetic is related to craniosacral areas. This returns it back to normal. So it's seen as the rest or digest, or this is called SLUD, which is salivation, lacrimation, which is crying, urination, digestion, and defecation. So again, when you look at it, you're crying, you are salivating, which is preparing your body for food. Your breathing will decrease, your heart rate will decrease, your liver will change enzymes storing the sugar, which is coming from the increase in blood to your digestive glands. There's 2 types of receptors. You don't necessarily have to be aware of them. I'm more concerned that you know what is going on. And that's the end of chapter 9. Pay attention to the word anatomy. Soma means body. So the somatic nervous system is the skeletal systems that takes care of the body. Oligodendrites means it is the ones that have few dendrites. D means remove or not. Post means after. Myelo has to do with the spinal cord, and pelagia has to do with paralysis. So if you're semi or quadriplegic, that means you can't move 4 of your limbs as opposed to a bipelagial. Anyway, and in terms of pelagia, it depends on where your spinal cord is damaged. Okay, that's enough for chapter 9. Thank you.